Hi, welcome to a conversation that's debating the rules for small law firms that thrive. Today, Dr. Siamak Goudarzi, lawyer, legal tech advisor, and founder of Nexter AI, sits down with Heather O'Connor, CEO of O'Connor Family Law in Massachusetts. Heather's story is extraordinary. She built a thriving family law practice. Together, they're discussing where small firms are headed, beyond the billable hour grind.
Hey Heather, good to
Hi,
be
thank you
here
so
with
much for
you.
having me here.
Thank you so much. I was following you for quite a while and we managed to get this meeting done and I'm so pleased. And your story is quite incredible and inspiring. And I wanted to give this opportunity to our listeners to listen to you. We also talk about your success story behind introduction of flat fees and the introduction of technology in your practices and how you transform your law firm to something that you have almost 30 people. This can inspire other lawyers who are planning to follow the same journey. So, yeah, you can start with introducing yourself and tell us more about this.
Awesome. So I'm Heather O'Connor, and I own O'Connor Family Law, a divorce and custody firm based out of Massachusetts. We also practice in Rhode Island and New Hampshire now as well. But it's funny where you mention my story is inspirational because I know it is. I'm told that regularly. And it's this funny thing because when I was going through it, it felt anything but inspirational. It was, I hit some of the lowest points in my life. There were times where I had no idea what I was doing. That, you question your judgment, you question where you are, you question so many things. So it's something that, especially if somebody is listening to this and we're talking about inspirational stories, it's so important to remember that wherever you are, it's the challenges that often when you get through them, that's what provides the inspiration. So listening to stories like mine, stories where other people have been able to overcome things, I think is so important because it helps keep you focused on the fact that you're not stuck where you are, no matter how horrible that feels. And so it's just a funny thing where when people come up and they're like, "Oh, thank you for sharing your story. It's so inspirational." It's like, yeah, it kind of stunk to go through it, but I'm glad now I can share that to help other people get through it as well. But yeah, I started I got married really, really young. I got married because I found out I was pregnant, and that's in my family. We were
Yes.
very religious. You didn't have a baby without getting married. So
Mhm.
I blindfolded myself to a lot of red flags that I should have seen. And fast
Mhm.
forward 3 kids later, my kids were all under the age of 6, where the last incident of domestic violence happened, where my ex-husband was arrested. And my son, who I had stayed, through some different things because I thought that keeping my family together and having, mom and dad in the same home was what was best for my children. So again, you put up the blinders and you ignore things because you think you're doing it for the right reasons. And as my ex-husband got arrested, my 4-year-old at the time was out in the front yard skipping around saying, "My daddy got arrested. My daddy got arrested." And the officer came up to me and said, "Ma'am, this is not a normal reaction. Can we speak with your son?" And when they came back in and expressed his words to me, it changed my entire life. It changed everything that I felt was important. And what they said was, "We asked your son why, if he understood why his father was getting taken away in a police car." And his response was, "Yeah, because he hurt my mommy like he hurts me." And when I
Mhm.
heard that, it changed. And that was my line in the sand where I wasn't just bearing it for myself. Now I had to not bear it for my children, for their future. And so that started me down the divorce process, which was horrible. It was, I remember walking into court, and this is well before I became an attorney. I at this point had not gone to college. I only had a high school diploma. I had no career. I had nothing. And so within this process, what I noticed was the emotional aspect, the forward-looking aspect, the lawyers all talked about custody and parenting plans and everything that was needed for the immediate future or the immediate present. But nobody talked about what's your plans for the future? How are you going to get through this? Where are you looking at your finances? How are you going to be able to afford this? All of that was left out. And I remember speaking with another woman at court who said to me, Heather, how's your lawyer? And I said, I think they're good, but you don't really know. Like you kind of just hope they know what they're talking about. And she said, yeah, I feel the same way. Like they just don't get it. And that sentence resonated with me. I hope someday this woman hears the story and is like, that was me, because I'd love to find her again, because she literally, within that comment, encouraged me to look at everything and say, I can change this. I think I can get up here. I can become an attorney. I can create a firm and I can help people get through this process in a different way. And so that's what I set my sights on. And that is what, thankfully, I have been able to do and enjoy every single day. Well, not every single day, but for the majority of the days since then. And it was a process, but I went to community college, undergrad, law school, all while my children were growing up.
Wow.
So
Fast
that's,
forward to today, you've done it, and congratulations. It's quite
thank you.
inspiring, and I'm sure it resonates with a lot of people who are facing the same situations and going through the same patterns. And you can always turn a challenging situation into something as beautiful as this if you basically, do the hard work. I'm sure it wasn't easy, and learn what you have to learn and do what you have to do. But if the determination is there, it can happen. So tell me more about the firm now. How do you work in a couple of minutes? How do you operate, and what sort of things you do for your client? And what do you do except from this personal touch, which I can see and I know differently from the other law firms?
Sure. And I hope this is something that people hear and they grab to and copy, because I do really believe that what we do helps clients in ways that isn't just within the law. And one of the biggest things we did outside of just, really focusing on the communication being positive, our values are encompassed with the word change. It's I have to spell it in my head. It's courage, honesty, ambition, navigation, growth, and empowerment. And every interaction we have with clients are focused on how do we change their lives. And each of those values are built into that. And one of I think the most important things we did is we brought a divorce coach onto our team that works with our full representation clients, completely complimentary. And that focus is on everything that's missing within the actual divorce process. It's how to co-parent with somebody who is manipulative, how to really reevaluate your goals in life, how to start the
Psychology
forward
side of
thinking.
it, which not many lawyers
Yeah.
can cover.
Which she's not a therapist, because we didn't want to get into the world of,
Yes.
mixed confidentiality
Yes.
issues.
Yes.
So she's a coach, not a therapist. We specifically did
Yes.
not bring in a therapist for that reason. But it's really made such a difference in so many different ways. And also on the legal side, it's made a huge difference because our lawyers can do what they've been trained to do, which is get the amazing results. And it also helps keep people's legal fees down because they can turn to the coach for that emotional support, which is so incredibly necessary, rather than their
Yes.
lawyer who they're charging hundreds of dollars per hour.
It's not easy at all. I practice law in many different disciplines, and I've done crime and family property. But family was the one that I always try to avoid. If I could pass on the case to a colleague, I wouldn't have taken it, exactly for this reason, that a lot of clients ask me questions which were not legal questions, and they were asking, what do you think I should do? I felt like awkward. What can I say? But you provide a solution that you don't answer that question necessarily. You say you have a coach who can help you and support you with that decision, because he is an expert, which is very, very for me, it's a very good solution. Going back to the flat fee, I tell you a story of when I took over Leonard Solicitors in Southampton. The firm was very traditional and they were doing only hourly rate. And I remember the person that I took over the firm, he was retiring. And when I started introducing the fixed fee, he was like, I don't know how it's going to work. How do you manage it? How do you know it's going to cover? It's unpredictable. We've never done it. So many of these questions because he was helping with consultations. But I went against it. And the first thing I did was to introduce the flat fees for immigration, for obviously property, and for some criminal cases as well. And it worked really well. And I felt like clients like it. And we always had this battle with the hourly rate, with the attorneys. Are you doing your time recording? Are you doing enough billing? And we never had a chance to get through that because it's a big challenge. Imagine the lawyer has to do his work at the same time. They have to worry and do extra work to do the accounting side of it, which no lawyer wants to do. We lawyers just want to get on with the job. We want to do the job. We want to help our clients. And that part of the job they didn't like. So that was my personal experience. And I think it was successful. We turned the firm from having like 8 people working in it, similar size to yours. By the end, we had 30 people and 2 branches in the same city. We expanded. The new attorneys were happy that we provided them with training contract, with jobs. We were happy, we were growing. Most of it was due to the introduction of flat fee system plus expanding into the practice area. So now tell me your experience in your firm, how you manage this.
Well, so we don't do a lot of flat fees because, and I would be so interested to take this conference. I'm definitely going to have to look up exactly how you've done it because every time we've tried to do anything with flat fees, which I think is a better model, I hate the billable hour. I think every attorney will say the billable hour is the bane of your existence. But the problem with family law is it is so chaotic in so many different ways. And when a case comes in, you can have a general process of how you believe that a case is going to go. And then it goes completely haywire. And so what we found with trying to do flat fees is that either the client's getting, screwed over or we're getting screwed over. So we haven't been able to find that happy medium. But what we did incorporate was a program called Ajax, because with the billable hour, each attorney, and I think this is where you were going with that conflict of getting your billable hours in, and as a business owner, making sure, and somebody who really does care about the well-being of our clients, making sure they're paying for the actual work and not for fluffing, not for, padded time or anything like that. So what we actually found was this program called Ajax, and it goes into every single attorney's computer and literally watches what they do and automatically tracks the time for them. It connects it with the case matter, it connects everything. And so that has made it where our billing has become so much more efficient, where we've really been able to hone down on numbers to get more specific case values. And no, these are real case values. These aren't, hypotheticals of if everyone's working efficiently, this is probably what it should be. These are real true numbers. So we're hoping, within the next maybe year or two, because that's a big project to switch over, is to basically try it again or try some other sorts of models. We've also played with the possibility of doing some sort of subscription model where people can pay almost more on like a payment plan where they're moving forward, because then we've had some divorces that have taken 5 to 7 years. And so that's very different cost than a 14-month divorce. And so that way it becomes more fair, but without really truly understanding your numbers, it's so hard to even get there.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree. What I meant by flat fees, I didn't think about introducing it to complicated divorce cases. We were doing those on an hourly basis. There was no other way because it all depends on how the other party behaves, how easy it's going to be. Sometimes it's going to be very complicated. And if you fix it on a fee, one party or the other can be not happy. But there are other areas that other applications, simple things that can be done on flat fee. And so my philosophy was whatever we could put on flat fee in any practice area, we did. And whatever was not possible, of course, we kept the hourly rate basis. But statistic is telling us that even in Australia, statistically, 90% plus law firms have moved towards flat fees. And this is a trend. And I believe this is the expectations of clients. Why? Because at some point, the lawyers were very limited. I mean, there were few lawyers in every city and everybody knew them. And people, when they got into trouble in crime, they knew they had to go to this or that or two, three people. And people didn't have a choice. They would go there, the person and the lawyer did the job and then bill them and they had to pay it. They didn't have any other choice. Whereas now, because of the internet, social media, because of the searching becoming much easier, people have hundreds of choices.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why before they get involved with a firm, they will easily find another 100 law firms. They can see, they can search, they can send inquiries. And that is why the availability of choice will eventually make the hourly work more and more difficult, I believe. And that is why a lot of modern law firms are moving away from it. Going back to AI and technology, tell me what you do in your firm and in which areas you're using technology.
I mean, I think technology extends to every single area. I think you can't own a firm or even be an attorney at this point without efficiently utilizing technology in some ways. So, I mean, we talk about case management, CRMs, the general things are obviously technology. When we start getting into I think that's where the conversation becomes a lot more fun because I think a lot of lawyers, and righteously so, are very cautious in using AI. You hear the stories of people utilizing ChatGPT to write memos and it comes up with ghost case law and they're getting dinged by the bar. So there's definitely some fear there that it's going to be used the incorrect way. And I think this is where a very client-facing firm can utilize AI. I do believe there is a great need for it. And I think there is a lot of things that can be done with it to not only make processes more efficient, but also help the clients become more educated in a way that keeps their costs down, keeps them more informed, keeps them feeling, that back and forth relationship, as well as keeping people more organized. I know for me, especially with the number of attorneys, the thing that keeps me up at night is anything going to fall through the cracks? Are our clients not going to get the communication we want? Are we going to miss anything? And we've got checks and balances, all throughout our processes. But when those can become set up in a way where we're not relying on human error, that is, I think, one of the most incredible ways that AI is going to be utilized, not to replace people, but to ensure nothing's falling through the cracks so that, owners can sleep at night. So
Absolutely, absolutely. And there are some research about your city, Massachusetts, that a lot of law firms are considering or have considered or left the profession because of burnout. It's quite challenging, for a lawyer to be able to do their job. And people think, clients, that they only have your case, but it's not true. Every lawyer has got hundreds of cases. They have to manage timetables, they have to manage communication, they have deadlines, and it is a big pressure on many lawyers, especially those who are still doing it in a traditional way, not benefiting from AI and technology. And AI is here to help us. We all want to have more time for ourselves, our families. We want to have more quality time so that we can spend it with our clients. But the repetitive tasks and the things that draining us, and every lawyer will take that away. And I'm so happy that we are here to see the emergence of AI so that we see the next generation of lawyers who are all chilled out, relaxed, because AI is handling the hard part, which a machine can do even better. And then they can concentrate on their health, their time with their family. They can concentrate on doing the quality work. This is the good news, but the bad news is that I speak with a lot of law firms. A lot of them, they're still waiting. I don't know what they are waiting for. They are still, I speak to people that they think AI is ChatGPT and they say, okay, we use AI. Come on, move on. You know, AI is not ChatGPT. This is just a small fraction of what AI can do. It's a whole technology. And I'm glad that I heard from you that you cannot even be a good lawyer if you are not using technology. I would say you cannot be a very good lawyer if you don't use AI properly in your practices either, because clients expect it. If you like it or not, they are using AI and they see that a lot of things that they used to spend a lot of time is done very quickly by AI. They expect the same from the lawyer who is handling their case. So if they see that the lawyer is old-fashioned and the way they handle things is not efficient, they will get annoyed, and they have all the right to do so. Don't you agree that the expectations are also changing from clients?
Yeah, 100%. I think, you think back, and this was well before I became a lawyer, but I remember when pagers were a thing, before people had cell phones. And
Mm,
I still, every once in a while, we still have an opposing counsel who refuses to use email and will only correspond through fax. That is insane to me. That's like still advertising in the phone book. There's so much that has changed and progressed. And I think a huge example of this was with the pandemic. Prior to that, I think clients were very trained to want to meet their attorneys in person. They wanted to sit down, they wanted to have face to face. The pandemic changed all that because it made technology something that was every day instead of
mm,
something that was weird. And so it became just part of the process. And for us, it's been fantastic because the majority of our legal team works from home. And that's great because I employ a lot of parents. I
mm,
employ people who have young children. And for me, one of the important things with building my firm was to allow for the flexibility of parents to both have a very meaningful career, but
mm,
also be present in their children's lives and not constantly feel that conflict. And Zoom allowed us to do that. It was okay, we're
mm,
here, we've got
mm,
it. And now all the technology that comes along that makes things faster, the discovery process that will take hours to go through bank statements can be done
mm,
in a half hour where everything is just computed. Now, of course, I will caveat that with never, ever, ever throw anything financial into ChatGPT. If you don't have the protected and confidential resources, don't utilize it. Like, it's
mm,
important if you're going to do it to do it the right way. Don't do it the wrong way. And that's where ethical standards and people's own professional at this point. And I think that is probably why you see some people being very hesitant to use it because you hear all the horror stories of people doing it wrong. And,
mm,
within my firm, it's you don't use Chat GPT. Like, that's not what we do. We are
mm.
not replacing our brains with a computer, but there are so many ways that those types of programs can be utilized. So,
Absolutely. I can give you examples and definitely not using ChatGPT for client work and giving client information to it because then all problems can start. What we are doing, and it is working actually, is using Cloud, but using Cloud Code. So with Cloud Code, we download VS Code on one computer and it's local. Everything is local. And with VS Code, you can train AI agents, which are your basically employees. Each one of them is given a task, and those AI agents are connected to your workflow, to your documents. Everything is ethical and there is no breach of compliance or confidentiality because everything is local. And it is working for us and for our lawyers and law firms. So whatever the question I always ask my clients is, what is the bottleneck? What is it that gets you annoyed that you have to do every time, every day? Because clients ask the same question, you have to answer the same answer. They ask for the same document, you have to tell them, okay, this is the list, this is what we want. And lawyers do it over and over every day, and they have to go and copy from what they said to this client and use most of it and paste and then add something to it. This is still a clever way of doing it, but it's still old fashioned. So we make that automated. So we give that training for the things that we do on a repetitive basis to Claude Code, and everything is done by Claude Code. All we have to do, okay, we have a new client. This is the name, this is the email address, and this is the situation, and this is the case. It will produce everything that you have to do within a couple of hours to put everything together within seconds. So you have it all. So basically, you don't have to give instructions to the GPT over and over again because you've done it once, you've trained it, and it does it for you. I really recommend looking into that for some of your practices, and we can have further conversation at some point if you are interested. Plus, we do AI receptionists for many law firms. I see that you have a chatbot, and I'm sure it's working. The chatbot we are making is not a chatbot. It's a combination of 2 or 3 people at the reception, each one of them doing one thing. So even they coordinate between each other. So if it's about consultation, booking, it goes to the other agent and takes care of it from there. It even tells to the client, oh, let me hand it over to my colleague. It's really incredible and clever, and it also filters out the things that people ask. You receive emails or chats from people who are asking you weird questions that it doesn't even relate to your law firm. So it filters them out in a way that this is not what we do, but you can email us if you want somebody to look into that. So it doesn't get involved with cases that it shouldn't be involved. So
And to me, all of that is so exciting. So I think people are going to have one of two reactions. It's either going to be they hear that and they start seeing all the possibilities of what this can do, or they hear that and almost a fear sets in of this is so different than what I know now. Most lawyers hate to learn new things. So it's very difficult for people to jump into something that is kind of unknown. But that's what life is. And that's why our values are encompassed with the word change. Because if you stay static, if you stay the same, you're only going to stay in your little bubble, and everything around you is changing. So it's so important to open your mind and continue to moving forward. Because if that doesn't excite you, the possibilities of all of that, I don't know. I don't know. Retire now.
I'm glad to hear that. No, a lot of, unfortunately, lawyers are a little bit naive as well. And the ones who are saying, okay, I'm waiting to see. What they are missing is that other law firms are using it already. They are improving, but they are not going to pick up the phone and tell you, look, we are using this technology, this system, and it's saving us a lot of time. They don't tell you. Why would they? They are your competitors.
Well, I'll tell you what we're
When
about
you
to
will
do.
know is that suddenly you feel like, where are my clients? Why am I not getting enough clients? And the other firm who wasn't my competitor now is booming. This is when they realize, and that is too late.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely you have to open to new ways of working, and the technology is there and it calls for change, and we either adopt it or learn it. It's not easy. And one of the reasons people don't go for it because they have to learn something new and they feel like, why do I have to learn this? I'm okay. But yes, you're okay now. Do you care about the future? Do you want to improve? Do you want to have more people? What always helped me improving and growing was I loved employing people, even in my firm now. I love to grow and give chances to other people to come in. And that helped me to grow every business I had. This is one of my passions to create jobs for people. So if you care about these things, if you want to grow and you want to help people and be more efficient and also look after your time, your well-being, then you have to be open to new ways, definitely. Do you agree?
Yeah, one of the things we're about to do, and hopefully this is a success story and not something I say, we shouldn't have done that. but I'm flying out to a company in Maryland either next week or the week after. I lose track of time. And we're going to be creating a clone of myself and utilizing that clone because one of the things,
Wow.
one of kind of I wouldn't say it's a bottleneck, but an area where it is so important to me is educating clients on where they are through their case progress. And one of the biggest, as I'm sure you're aware, one of the biggest complaints people have are the lack of communication, feeling as though they don't understand. And so I've been talking for years about making videos that we can
Mhm.
send to our clients, but to actually do that, the amount of time that goes into that, it gets pushed to the back burner because everything else needs attention. And so I'm really hoping that to be able to utilize this where we train it in how I
Yeah,
speak, how I talk, the ways that I come across. So it's going to be me not giving out legal advice, of course, because
perfect.
it's phone, but be able to utilize it within our client communication to make sure that as their case is progressing, they're hearing the information that I specifically want them to hear, that I want them to
Yes.
be able to understand in a manner that they can take it in at any time that is comfortable for them. Not necessarily when they're speaking with their attorney, paying hundreds of
Yes.
dollars, but maybe when they're laying in bed, worried about everything, they can just put on the video and hear what's coming up in their case and what to expect. And so I'm really hoping that that elevates our ability to educate our clients in a way that
Mhm.
I hope, if we speak in a year, I'm like, oh, blew my mind.
Brilliant.
So,
Yeah,
but
no,
that's one of the
definitely.
things that we're going to be doing.
That is very wonderful. Thank you so much.